Hi, and welcome to Psychic Holistic Spotlight. My name's Susie Fontaine, and as my guest today, I have Leo McCarthy, and we will be discussing shamanic journeying. All right, welcome, Leo.
Thank you for having me. So yeah, I think what I wanted to chat about today is like my shamanic journey.
Perfect.
And you know, a lot of people will talk about the practices with shamanic practices, but what I wanted to talk about and what's important to me that I wanted to talk about is I wanted to kind of talk about mental health and shamanism.
Okay. Yeah.
So I feel it's important, like I'm a big advocate for talk therapy. I've been doing therapy for years, and I'll get to the story of why.
Yes.
But the other thing that I wanted to talk about, that there's a thing called shaman sickness.
Okay.
And it's a period that a shaman goes through a period of time, and it's almost like a mental health crisis that they have. It could last weeks, it could last months, it could last years. And it might not necessarily even be just mental health. It could be physical, it could be spiritual symptoms as well. And this is kind of like almost the universe's way of like tapping the shaman on the shoulder.
So do you feel that that is something that comes on over the years, or could it just be in the very beginning as they're getting into it and things are releasing more or bringing things up?
Well, so what I see that happens is, and from my own experience, that I've realized that I was going through my shamanic initiation period like before I actually found my teacher.
Oh, okay.
And so I'm going to take us back to like 2011.
Okay.
And so back in October 2011, my wife and I went on this big trip to Thailand. We had a great trip, and we got back and kind of recovering from jet lag and all that stuff.
Yeah.
In the beginning of November of 2011, I had started getting curious about like different spiritual things, some paranormal things and stuff like that. And I was just experimenting with like some different divination tools and stuff.
Yep.
And it kind of tapped into something in me and triggered something, and I ended up having a psychotic break. And it was something that, you know, a lot of people might be ashamed to talk about, or they may not feel comfortable talking about.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's important to talk about this now because of the stigma with mental illness and mental health. I think people need to see it as something as the same as people talking about cancer.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
So I had a psychotic break, and it was a combination of a chemical imbalance and my upper chakras kind of almost being blown up wide open.
Okay.
And so I ended up being in the hospital for a few days initially, and they got me regulated with some medication after they did some initial testing to rule out other physical symptoms that could have possibly caused, or any environmental things that could have caused the situation, that they couldn't find anything. And so they weren't sure, like, this might be an isolated incident. We don't know if this will happen again or whatever. And so we got off and just kind of recovering from that. And the medication that I went on to kind of like regulate the chemicals kind of really made me feel just not great. It made me feel really sluggish, almost like a zombie, and I didn't like the way I felt. No, and like many people many people that deal with mental health, a lot of people go off medications for that reason, you know? And so I stopped the medication, and I was, at that point, the veil was open on the other side, and I was like right next to me. And so I was through the period of like now November, after Thanksgiving, the end of the year, going into the beginning of like 2012, we ended up, because I had some different experience happen at my apartment where my wife and I were living. We ended up actually leaving the apartment because I couldn't stay there anymore.
Really?
Yeah.
Like as an energy, like a shift in the energy and everything?
Yeah, shift in the energy, yeah.
Wow,
And
okay.
it was like something really palpable. And so because of like the chemical imbalances and also just like the fear that like the other side instilled in me, because I felt so vulnerable that I just couldn't handle it.
Okay.
And so we ended up moving. We found a new apartment and we ended up moving. And then so we got to a place, we got settled. We ended up getting a couple cats, which was great. We adopted a couple cats from a shelter. And a big part of that also is like we liked animals. We were ready to have cats, but also like the anxiety and fear that I was dealing with, I felt like I needed something else around.
Exactly.
You know?
Yep.
And so pets, you know, they can be very comforting.
Very calming, very, you know, unless all of a sudden you get this crazy one. But
yeah, and we know animals are so sensitive to the other side too. They pick up on things.
They'll be like,
so like these two cats, they were brothers and they were kind of like my little guardians.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, that's awesome.
And so, you know, from let's say January to June, I wasn't on medication. I was very ungrounded.
Okay.
And I was having also like a lot of delusional thinking where I was kind of like disassociating and disconnecting. Okay. And so I was like way up here and my feet weren't really planted on the ground.
Okay. Yes.
And so, and then I think it was like in June, my brother-in-law, my wife's brother, him and his wife, they had their daughter. And that kind of also, that event kind of triggered something else in me that stirred up now a ramp up in the chemical imbalances and also like a ramp up in my sensitivity with the other side.
Yes.
And so I initially, when my niece was born, I was actually in the hospital, I believe, because it was right around that time I was out and about wandering around, and I think it was at a bookstore, maybe it was Barnes and Noble, and I was in the parking lot, and my wife calls me and she's like, "Where are you?" And I said, "I'm like in the parking lot here." And she's like, "Oh, stay there." I'm like, "Okay, I'm coming to get you." And so like leading up to this, like I just was very ungrounded, a lot of delusional thinking, and I was driving my wife crazy, and she was really worried about me, etc. And it just was hard to stay focused. And she's like, "I'm coming to get you. I'm taking you to the hospital."
Oh.
And so she's like, "I want you to be evaluated." And so we got to the hospital. We were there for hours before I was able to actually see someone to assess me. And so the person that finally met with me, you know, they said to my wife, "Yeah, we definitely see something's going on here. He's really intelligent, but," and that didn't make my wife feel better.
Exactly.
Because like I was very good at like keeping things to myself and hiding things that may have been going on, but it was also like the disassociating and the delusional thinking that was keeping me from like being honest with people about what I was experiencing because out of fear. And also I think what's attached to that fear also, even in those moments, is like stigma in reality, because like those fears sometimes stem from reality of what we actually deal with. So anyway, I went to the hospital, we got evaluated, and they basically said, "Well, he's an adult. We can't forcibly admit him, but he's got to admit himself." So my wife just basically said, "Well, I need you to do this. It's like, otherwise, I can't stay with you right now."
Okay.
And so she kind of set a hard boundary with me, and I needed that. And so I was like, "Okay, fine, I'll admit myself." So I admitted myself, and in my own head, I was thinking like, fine. I'm just going to prove everybody wrong. Nothing's going on. Everything's fine with me.
Yep,
and I'll show them.
Yeah.
And so I admitted myself. And then, I participated with some evaluations, did some group therapies. But during that period, because I was around so many people in that section, where there are many people walking around ungrounded, disassociated, a lot of just things going on.
Yes.
It like created an environment to me to be unhinged. It was like it fostered a situation for me to detach from reality.
Yes.
And it encouraged almost in a way for me to kind of get off the ground and stay way up here, And so eventually what came out of that whole situation with me being there, I was there for about 8 or 9 days, but eventually we got a diagnosis for me.
Okay.
And so they diagnosed me with schizoaffective disorder. And so it's a combination of like bipolar and schizophrenia. And I also have like anxiety and depression. Okay. And so when we left there, I had to get connected with a med doctor and a talk therapist. Okay. And so I did that, and I worked with a really good med doctor, and we got a good formula, a combination of medications to kind of regulate me, but not over-medicate me. And so this time, as opposed to the first time, it didn't feel like a zombie. I felt like the medications helped kind of manage me and manage my emotions and manage the chemicals.
And you could function.
And I could function because like I wasn't able previously to being on medications that worked. I wasn't functioning very well day to day. And it was hard to kind of keep consistent with my jobs. And so I got regulated with the medications, and it gave me a good baseline to function. And so I've been a massage therapist for years, about 20 plus years, and many years I worked for myself. And I did personal training in my past. I don't do it anymore. I've retired from that. But back when this situation happened, I was doing massage and personal training. And so I decided, and my wife decided, together, we decided it was too much stress for me to work for myself. And so I decided, I need to work for someone else because it's too hard to do this on my own right now, the way things are going. So I eventually found work doing massage therapy through a franchise. And so that was easier. But initially getting back into work, just coming out of the hospital, and I was still kind of recovering, and I was still on that healing journey of getting regulated with the medications, getting my nervous system regulated, and fighting stigma also. Because like no one wants to be diagnosed with anything, and no one wants people to think anything of them. And so I had those things going through my head and worried about, working somewhere where people going to notice, where, that I felt uncomfortable or, different things like that.
So I'm kind of curious. So as you're like, say in the hospital and you're going, under treatment, did anyone ever talk to you about like energy healing or anything like that? Did they offer any type of?
There wasn't anything like that offered there. And, after I got discharged, after I got medicated, it was a period of time for me to feel comfortable in my own skin. And I had started back massage, and I had a client that actually was a Reiki teacher, and I'd worked on them. I actually didn't know they were when I was working on them, but then afterwards they were telling me, I have this Reiki class coming up. And at the time I thought about it, but then my intuition was saying, like, you're not ready. This isn't a good time for this yet. And so I thought about it, I was curious about it, but I'm like, you know what? I don't think I should yet. And so I didn't. And it wasn't until 2017, over the course of between like 2012 and up to 2017, I had been now medicated for a while and regulated. I felt very comfortable. I felt like I had a lot more control of my emotions. I felt a lot less fear of like spiritual stuff and energy. And I felt like I was capable of like exploring it. And I had said I was doing massage therapy for quite a few years. And so in 2017, I started thinking long term. It's like, you know, I need to pursue something that's a little easier on my body. So I thought of Reiki.
Yeah.
I'd heard of it in school, and I decided to find a teacher. So I found a teacher, and I had my first Reiki session with them. And then I did my level 1 and level 2 with her. And then I was ready probably about a year later to do my Reiki Master Teacher training, and I had a big pull to do it. And so my teacher wasn't doing it, but I ended up doing my Reiki Master Teacher training with her teacher. And I got trained in Holy Fire Reiki. And so, let's see, where am I going with this? So I got involved with Reiki, and then once I got attuned to level 2 is when my clair senses really started opening up. And then the mediumship started to develop as well. And then as those connections got stronger and opened me up, I got to a point where I was realizing I was looking for other things to work with spirituality.
There's something more.
And I felt like there's more healing to do. And it came at the right time that I had been thinking about, like, looking into shamanic practices for quite a few years. And it just crossed my mind, went out of my mind, crossed my mind, went out of my mind. I finally connected with a previous student of mine, and she had told me about a teacher she was working with. And so I had a situation that I was dealing with someone that needed some help with like some darker energy they were dealing with. And I felt like, well, I deal with energy, but like that's not in my wheelhouse right now. So I thought, well, this student said they're working with this shaman teacher. I asked, do you think they would talk to me about it? So I connected with them. And she actually helped me out with the dark energy situation, helped do some remote clearing for me. And I was so impressed with what she did with that situation. She also looked at me, did some clearing with me as well. And I actually felt a difference with it. And I just felt like a really strong connection with her. And I just felt like my intuition and my guide saying, like, here's your teacher.
Exactly.
And so, and then I just said to her, like, how do I work with you? And she said, well, this is what we can do. And so, I did my apprenticeship with her. She has a Peruvian lineage. So I did my shaman apprenticeship a few years ago. So I'm in this lifetime a new shaman, but I feel like I've been on a journey for a long time, and I think a lot of things are just opening up. So I do offer shamanic practices. So I do soul retrievals, I do egg healings, and they're very powerful situations. You know, I journey a lot in, you know, even with Reiki, I use journeying as well. To kind of tap into, you know, once you have a lot of experience with, let's say, Reiki kind of opens the door for a lot of things. And you get some experience working with people, you end up going deeper and deeper and deeper.
You do.
And you end up realizing that, like, oh, there's a reason why I'm doing this now, because it's like when I was talking about previously EFT tapping in the other episode, where I can incorporate even, it's not even just a Reiki session anymore, it's more of a healing session. It's a conglomerate of things.
It's amazing when that happens, when you realize that, because people will be like, I'll be doing like a chakra clearing with dowsing tools, and people are like, how is everything coming up that you
and
have?
I think
But
that's just like the evolution of our practice.
It's just like when it's right for you, everything just melds together, and it's just like, we're not doing, you know, we're the vessels, everybody else is in the background working with us, you know, so that's great. So now as to go a little bit further
Yeah.
now, like where you're saying like the sickness and the illness and that. So how does that come into play?
So now, like, I still am on medication.
Yep.
I still
Yep.
do therapy.
Yep.
I'm regulated really well.
Good.
I still deal with anxiety. You know,
Who
a lot of,
doesn't?
I mean, the world right now too
Yes.
is enough to
Oh,
make us
yes.
anxious.
Yeah.
So, like, I take advantage of all my tools. So sometimes Reiki works, sometimes EFT tapping works. But, you know, I think it's important for us as practitioners also to recognize that we can't do everything ourselves.
Oh, exactly.
And we always need someone else to help as
Yeah.
well. So
Yeah.
we need to be like receivers also.
Oh, exactly.
So I have
Yes.
like people that I go to, like my shaman teacher
Okay.
and other trusted colleagues that work
Yeah.
with my own energy
Yeah.
too, because it's one thing to work on your own energy.
Oh, yes. And
But
then-
you can't really step away from yourself
Yep.
to fully get the benefit
Exactly.
doing it by yourself.
Yeah. So now you talk about shaman illness and that. So how does that all come into play, and how are people realizing what is going on, you know, to lead you to that, to say like there's a lot going on, and
Yeah,
you know,
I think just
it's not necessarily a burnout.
No.
Yes.
No, so like, I guess if like, you know, other people that might be going through experiences, you know, it may not necessarily mean that they're a shaman or
Okay.
their journey is to become a
Okay.
shaman.
Okay.
But, you know, there is a separation of like mental illness, mental health, and spirituality. And the both can exist.
Yes.
And so in my experience with my own personal situation, both exist.
Okay.
You know, there's chemical imbalances and there's spirituality.
Okay. Yep.
And they both exist.
Yep. Good.
I don't know if that answers your question.
It does. It does. So, do you feel like there are different origins? Like, let's go back to shamanism.
Yep.
That there are different origins for shamanism. Because, like, we have the Native American
Right,
who consider themselves shaman. Then
Right.
we have like
The Peruvians.
Yeah,
right,
exactly.
Right. Yep,
Yeah.
Celtic and all that. Yeah.
Yep. So, have you worked with different energies as far as that?
I've really worked with probably more like the Peruvian lineage, and I've recently, it's so interesting, I've recently discovered, so like I deal with asthma,
Okay.
and one thing with like the Peruvian lineage I know is like chanting and singing is
Yes.
part of it. And I've recently discovered, not too long ago actually, it's so interesting, that a way to manage my asthma. So like with asthma, if you don't know how it feels when you get like a flare up or whatever,
Okay.
you get like a lot of mucus and
Okay.
stuff and congestion. I realized like humming can actually
Yeah.
just break up that mucus and
Yeah.
manage that over time. And it's just like a new practice. Literally, it's probably not an accident that it just recently happened before we're doing this.
Yeah.
That I discovered that as part of like my shamanic journey.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So as opposed to drumming.
Yeah,
and that
I also
yes.
drum. I
Yep.
use rattles
Oh, nice.
to get into like that flow state,
Yep.
etc. But I've also found that introducing, you know, daily now the humming practice that I do, not just for my asthma, but also just puts you into that state of connectedness.
It's funny because there was just something my sister was just telling me.
Really?
She goes, "Oh, I just watched this thing on humming."
Oh, my God.
And she hums all the time. Like
So
she'll
isn't
walk
that
around.
funny?
It is. And I said, "All right, you have to send me the link because I want to see what it's all about." But it's true. And like you're
Yeah.
saying, even with asthma, how that's helping you.
Yeah.
you
No,
know,
I've
and-
definitely noticed a
Yeah,
difference.
yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's so funny that comes
Yeah,
up. But
yeah.
synchronicities, here we are.
Yep. We were just talking about it. She goes, "Oh, I watched this thing on humming." And I'm like, "Humming, okay."
Right.
Yep.
Who would think?
Yep. That's why, you know, the joy bird, the hummingbird is like.
Right, exactly, the north. Yeah.
That's cool. But yes, so what else would you like to share?
So I'd like to share also that I am excited about like creating a community on Facebook that I call the Soul Searching Sanctuary.
Oh, okay.
Group. And it's a place for like-minded people to kind of just connect and discuss about like what's going on. Because I think, you know, with everything going on right now, people need more than ever like-minded people to connect with.
Yes. Yes.
And I think it's important to, I think another thing that I want to talk about and bring up is as a spiritual practitioner, and like when you're dealing with like a spiritual awakening, like that's a big thing that's happening. Yeah. And it's happening all over the place, and people are in different stages of it.
Exactly.
And it can be really lonely for a lot of people too, because they may be in situations where they may be in a partnership with a husband or wife, boyfriend, girlfriend.
That don't get it.
And you're maybe going through this awakening, and they're going through their normal day-to-day thing, and you're not like going in the same direction the way you're growing.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And so people worry, like, are we growing apart? And sometimes that happens, right?
Exactly.
But it doesn't have to be either.
Exactly.
Because there's also room for your partner to support you in certain ways, but then other like-minded people to support you in the other ways to support your spiritual growth.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. No, because it's the same thing. Like, we have a spiritualist church.
Right.
And it's amazing. It's like coming home, like-minded people, and it's such a wonderful group that when you find that, you know, and it's just like, it just adds to you. It brings you comfort.
It does.
Number one, because it's like all of a sudden you could talk about something and people don't look at you like, what?
Right.
What are you seeing? What are you hearing? What are you know, and that type of thing.
Right.
So, yeah.
And it helps you, like when you're around like-minded people, it helps you let your guard down and be like authentic.
Exactly.
Because like when we're having these spiritual awakenings, like really we're trying to get in touch with our authentic selves and actually get to know them again.
Exactly. And then, you know, you're kind of like, okay, wait a minute now. You know, I'm being led to do this. Should I follow through with this, or should I? And then, like you're saying, if you have a partner that's not understanding that, it's like, you want to do what? You know,
right?
Or, you know,
and sometimes they'll never make sense of it.
Exactly.
And that's okay too.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. It is like, why are we hiking every day? Why are we, you know?
Like my wife loves to read books. She's been part of a couple book clubs.
Yeah.
I like to listen to audiobooks. I'm not into paper books. I probably have a neurodivergent brain, and I don't have the attention span to necessarily read all
I go
the time.
like this, I'll be reading some of the books like down here because like I just fell asleep. But no, audiobooks, like even when I'm in the car and I'm like, oh, okay, wait, you know, and so I get that. But she likes to read.
Yeah, and I don't have to go to her book club, and she doesn't have to go to my drum circle.
There you go.
You know?
There you go. Yeah. No, that's nice. So now, are you local? Are you in this area? Are
So
you
I'm in Northborough, Massachusetts. My office is.
Okay, nice, nice.
Yep, so over there I offer Reiki, I teach Reiki classes, I do like soul retrievals and egg healings for the shamanic practices, I do the EFT tapping, I do guided meditation experiences, so that's a lot of what I do over there. Yeah.
Nice.
And then I also do the mediumship readings, and I also offer, I do a lot of public gallery style mediumship events. I have an event called Whispers from Spirit that I do those at like different metaphysical shops, yoga studios, coffee shops, and different things like that as well.
Bookshops, card shops.
Yeah, all those places. Yeah.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. Yeah. No, because it's nice to have that outlet. It's nice to connect with people, like you said, like-minded people and that. And good. Like, you know, keep journeying because that's great. You know.
It's the journey's still here.
Exactly. The healing's still going on.
We're always healing. I don't think we're ever healed.
No, not
But
at
what
all.
I've learned is like the things I've been through allows me to hold space for my clients.
Good. Yes, that's very, very important. So like the other thing too is like, as far as, and the thought just like went out my mind just when you said that and stuff, but it's like, you know, doing the healing, are you led to, like, sometimes does something else come up that you'll say, oh, I'm kind of interested in that. That's kind of piquing my interest in it. And then you just kind of want to, like, you know, pass on it or just kind of think about it for a minute. How does that feel?
I think the more you get in touch with your intuition and connect with your guides, and the more times that you trust it.
Yes.
you don't have to have that discussion in your head whether or not you're going to trust it or not.
Exactly. Yeah. No, because it is funny. It's just like,
I've-
something will come down the
yeah.
road and they're like, oh, that sounds kind of interesting. And if I do that and that,
Yeah, I
but-
find with the clairsenses, because I trust my guides, they use claircognizance
Yeah.
more.
Yes.
Because it becomes a more powerful clair.
Exactly.
Because they know
Yep.
you're going to trust it.
Yeah. Very good. Very good. Yeah. No, awesome. That's very, very exciting. Oh, she's like, give me the wrap it up. But no, that was great.
Yeah.
That was great. Thank you. Thank you. But yeah, no, it's an interesting world and I love being in it because of it, and that. And it's just like, okay, but 5, 4, 2,